You're about to watch a very brave woman make a very serious confession. Alida Lancee is a Perth GP who's putting her reputation, her livelihood and, most of all, her freedom on the line to publicly admit to helping a suffering patient die. Tonight, for the first time, she'll name that patient. It's an admission which will likely lead to a police investigation and a possible charge of murder. Dr Lancee is doing it because she says euthanasia laws in this country need to be changed. And if she has to pay an enormous price for her belief, then so be it.
Hi, Fifi.
Dr Alida Lancee has it all.
Hi, Mum.
4 lovely daughters, a well-established medical career as a GP, and an admirable reputation for being courageous and compassionate. Now this long-time campaigner for euthanasia is risking everything, as her close-knit family knows too well.
All the stories that she's come home and told us about, and like how people suffer, and it's just like, if you were in that situation, would you want that for yourself? And obviously not, so it's very supportive towards her. I'm proud.
We laugh when we're happy together and support each other.
Well, you get a sense that there is real worry here, real concern.
Of course there is. We know what's at stake. We know what's at stake, and the girls understand that.
They may understand, and they may be proud of their mum, but Alida's latest decision to confess everything about her critical role in the death of one of her patients has them reeling. Are you happy about her doing that?
Not really, no. To be honest, I didn't want her to do it just because it's a possibility that she'd be taken from us.
It was 2016 when Alida first hit the headlines.
The GP of 15 years triggered a euthanasia storm when she admitted giving a lethal injection to an elderly emphysema patient.
While she didn't name the patient she helped die, police launched an investigation anyway. But by refusing to cooperate with detectives, Alida made their task difficult.
I'd said nothing further and let them do their job. And they did their job, I think, but were unable to identify the correct patient in the end.
So they were looking at the wrong patient?
Absolutely.
The investigation established that that patient, the wrong patient, died naturally. For police, it meant no crime had been committed. But now Alida's decided to reveal the right patient and admit she did help an 80-year-old woman die.
This is what I did for this lady. If you think that that was against the law and that I am a murderer, deal with me as you see fit, and then see what the people of Australia will have to say about that.
So today, for the first time, you're prepared to reveal who that person is?
Yes. The lady's name was Mavis Scott. The condition that she had was end-stage lung disease. And I talked to her a long time, and the daughter. I says, look, Mavis, what is it you want? I just want to die. And then she says, please help me.
All Alida could offer Mavis was an injection which would undoubtedly hasten the distressed woman's death.
So I said, look, I will provide you with rapid terminal sedation, and it is likely to cause you to die much sooner than otherwise. Please, she said, please. So it was decided at that stage that I will provide that treatment, and that's what I did.
Would not palliative care have given her the same result as what you gave her?
Well, it's possible. I think it's possible, but I think she might have suffered intermittent distress and she might have died over days rather than hours. And that's where the difference is.
Do you expect to go to jail?
I'm in the hands of the law.
In my view, as a representative of the AMA, that doctor has done the wrong thing. That doctor has potentially broken the law.
Dr Omar Khorshid from the Australian Medical Association understands what drives doctors to help those suffering but says their actions are still unacceptable. Do you really believe those doctors who do help patients, who've said, please end my suffering, do you think those doctors have murdered or killed?
Doctors must act within the law. We can't have individual doctors saying, I know better, I can play God, I get to decide who lives and who dies.
Why can't we choose how to die?
How do we know that the patient is truly competent to make the decision? How do we know they're not being coerced by somebody else? How do we know that the information that they've been given on which they've based their decision is correct?
But Alida says seeing human suffering and doing nothing to stop it is a far worse act of negligence. How many times have you hastened someone's death to relieve their suffering?
I've probably needed to provide it for like 7 or 8.
Technically, you could be facing multiple murder charges.
Well, so be it. All the more exemplifies how ludicrous the law is. My problem isn't that I've done the wrong thing. My problem is that society hasn't caught up with what people need. That's all.
That's your view. The counter view is that you have done the wrong thing, that you've broken the law.
Well, that's for the court to decide, isn't it, if it came to that?
Is it nice to come out here? Because this is a place that Gail loved, wasn't it? Yeah.
It's absolutely, it's beautiful, yeah. And this was her pride and joy, like this little area here.
Vic Carboni doesn't think Alida's a criminal. Anything but. Late last year, when his 73-year-old wife Gail had exhausted all medical treatment for her brain cancer, she asked Alida for help because she was scared about how she would die.
Her mother experienced a bad end-of-life situation, which then became her determination that she wouldn't suffer the same fate, so she decided that she would have an end-of-life choice.
But when Gail contacted Alida, it was at the very time police were investigating the doctor. Even then, Alida couldn't say no.
Okay, here we go. She is asking me something that I know that if that were ever known out there, there'd be no question that I would end up in court. And so that was on one shoulder. And I heard pleading eyes of a dying woman who says, please. I couldn't refuse. I had to say, of course, I will be there for you, Gail. And the relief she showed was priceless. She would just, oh, thank you.
She became more peaceful, you know, like sort of just relaxed a little bit more.
For 7 weeks, Gail lived on, confident Alida would help her die when she wanted to. Then one night, Vic made the call he'd promised his wife he'd make.
I said to Alida, I think I need you to come. Could you come tomorrow?
I said, OK, I'll be there. I'll be there in the morning. And then I think 6 o'clock in the morning, Vic calls me. She's passed away overnight. You don't need it. I was relieved for her, but boy, was I relieved for myself. But I wouldn't have skimped.
You would have done it.
Absolutely.
Why does this make you cry?
Crying for her because she actually ended up having a reasonably good death without needing any assistance. Crying for myself, the relief I felt that I was not going to be putting myself in more danger than I need to.
Alida was on the end of the line and she was going to assist. And I was very happy with that, happy in that situation.
Relieved, yeah.
Relieved. And I've got to tell you, when Gail took her last breath, it was probably one of the more peaceful moments I've ever experienced. Just pardon me a minute.
Of course.
Sorry. It was sad, but peaceful.
Dr. Lancee's crusade has gained her a public profile and with that, uncomfortable scrutiny. But she's not without support. It's outrage at headlines like this that's led her brave colleague, Dr. Frank Kotai,
Hey, Alida.
to stand alongside her and admit that he too has assisted patients to die. Just like Alida, it's an admission that could land him in jail.
It's not something that I think she should be able to tackle by herself. She needs some visible support from colleagues and friends to cope.
How often have you been put in that situation, Frank?
Half a dozen times in general practice.
And have you always been able to help those people?
Yes.
One of those patients was 23-year-old Marcus Latham. He and his family, long-time patients of Frank's.
Every smile, every pain.
A missed melanoma resulted in a terminal diagnosis for Marcus, but it was the pain and suffering that Frank couldn't look away from.
Sick of holding on.
Everyone knew, he knew he was going to die, but the pain was, it was in his bones, in his abdomen, it was all through his body, and he was miserable, suffering, whimpering with pain. I left them my phone number and they rang me one Sunday morning, I think it was, and said that they were ready to go.
Frank says that after a physical assessment of Marcus, he agreed to help and made clear there would be no going back. Marcus agreed.
So I put up a drip and he drifted off, and a few hours later his mother rang me to say he'd passed away.
What did they say to you about what had happened to their son? What you did for their son?
Yes, they were very grateful and thanked what I did or didn't do. Didn't save his life, but I did relieve his suffering.
Both Frank and Alida know many doctors who have felt the same need and provided the same relief. They just won't shoulder the same risk to appear on camera.
All I want to do is provide a compassionate choice for those who need it. And, the support is there, absolutely. Just the support isn't necessarily there standing shoulder to shoulder and saying, we as a group have provided this.
Personally, do you feel let down at all?
It's frustrating, more frustrating than anything, but let down, no, because at the end of the day, not everyone can be a loony.
Coming up, dying with dignity.
I want to be in control. I've always been in control of my life.
Helping an 81-year-old.
I will commit to giving you medication which gives you control over the end of your life.
That's a great comfort.
Achieve her final wish.
The green dream, as they call it. Very effective.
And Dr. Lancee's plea for understanding.
It's a compassionate gift to release someone from a miserable body.
That's next on 60 Minutes. Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.